Hi, this is Roger. Thanks for dropping by. Just wanted to show you why I'm not a Cymbidium grower. Although, I will say there are some smashing miniature Cymbidiums around, if you can get them, where they do take up far less space, but they do tend to have this strappy appearance. Whatever overall height they are, they do tend to have these arching grassy leaves, which take up a fair bit of space. And quite honestly, if you strap them all together in an upright position, they just don't look right. This has come in now, mainly because it's blowing a gale outside, and if this pot goes over, it'll take the spike with it. So, but I wanted to show it as it comes in, just to show the size, basically. It's a large plant, and they can grow a lot bigger than this too. This one, we had a look at this one outside a while back. I'll put a link to that video at the end of this one, because that'll have a date on it. I can't remember when it was, just to show the rate of growth of the spike, basically. And we've got buds forming. This is going to need staking, but not yet. I want it to get... These bracts at the base of the sheath will eventually be left behind, and the spike will extend as just a spike with buds on. And at that point I can get hold of it, knowing I'm not going to get hold of any spikes, and pull it back in a bit at a time, not in one go, or it'll snap. Go steady. But we have got a good cluster of buds on there. We should get a nice blooming, and I'm now relatively confident that that may be a spike as well, but I still don't know. I'm quite happy to wait. When they first start, spikes and growths can look very similar. There are ways of telling them apart, but the easiest way is to just wait. And if it's a spike, as it extends, it'll feel loose. Yeah, it'll be like hollow, with a solid piece inside but with a hollow bit around it. Whereas if it's a growth, that doesn't happen, it stays solid. But growths do tend to come out a little more upright than that. And it would be odd with this plant, although I haven't had it a huge amount of time. I think this is its third year. It would be odd for it to push its new growth up now. It's more likely to be a second spike. Bit behind this one, well, quite a bit behind that one, but we shall wait and see. It's, as I say, it's not an urgent thing to determine a spike or a growth. It's not going to get treated any different either way, and I certainly don't think about staking spikes until I can get hold of them, you know, and actually deal with them. So we will stake that eventually, and then we can have a nice upright spike with the blooms in line with the leaves, which will look a lot better. It's not an arching spike, I don't believe, even though I've always staked it. But the weight of the blooms could arch the spike over. I mean, that's nowhere near its full height. It's probably going to grow at least twice as tall as that before it even thinks about blooming, maybe even 3 times that size, so it does push up a good bit of height with the spike. I've always staked it, so I don't know whether it would arch or not. I always worry with the hybrid Cymbidiums that the weight of the blooms is so great that the spike could snap. So I'm quite happy staking them, make sure that doesn't happen. Anyway, I just thought I'd show that. It's come in now. I've checked the top part of the plant for bugs. Quite happy there aren't any. I can't check the inside of the pot. So we may have brought some creepy crawlies in with us, who knows. So certainly for the time being, I'm going to leave it there. It's eventually going to have to go somewhere where we can see the blooms, but not yet. It'll just stay there for now. And we'll see how we get on. As I say, what I hope I haven't brought in is slugs, because they can escape from the pot. And in a night, they can travel some distance, so you end up with slugs in places you wouldn't expect, and that can cost you spikes and new growths quite easily. So I hope I haven't brought any in. I've had this sitting on the windowsill for quite a while to dry it out, because it was just absolutely sodden, you know, where we've had so much rain, and given its weight it's still wet, so it's not going to get watered for some time. I want it to dry off quite a lot. If I push my finger down in there, yeah, it's still damp down in there, so certainly no rush to get that watered. And once it's finished blooming next year, I'm going to have to repot that. It's the latest growth If the next growth is going to be that size and it comes out somewhere here, it hasn't got room. So it's got to be repotted. And then at that time, we can take off these two at the back and push it right over to the edge of the pot, give it room for another couple of years' growth. It's only ever produced one growth at a time, this plant. It was in a bad way when I got it, I must admit. It was a friend of my daughter who lived in the flats where she is that kept orchids, and he died. And she sort of inherited one of his plants. She went to the funeral and everything because they got on quite well, and the fact that he was interested in orchids as well, and grew some really good ones. But they got badly neglected as his health failed. To such an extent that a lot of the plants had actually died and couldn't even be passed on to other people. But this one was hanging in there and managed to get it to grow. So I'll keep it. I've got no plans on getting any more, just the one, that'll do. And luckily it can spend most of its growing season outside. Once we're clear of frost, it just goes out and it just gets forgotten. Gets fed and watered with my bonsai, basically, which is where it lives. So I can spend a good bit of the year outside. And although we haven't had any frost yet this year, they're coming soon. I'm pretty sure that these series of low pressures are moving across with their storms, and we've just had thunder and all that sort of stuff. Come next week, we've got a high pressure settling in, and I suspect we will start getting frosts quite soon. If we get clear night skies with a high pressure, which is virtually zero wind, we're going to get a frost. So it's coming soon, so I think this is a good time to bring it in. If we were having mild weather for another couple of weeks, I'd be happy to leave it outside, but it's got to come in at some point, so I've chosen now before the wind actually blows the pot over and rolls it and breaks the spike off. So we will go from there, and we'll keep our eye on that spike. It's grown a lot since I last filmed it, so pushing on nicely. See you next time.